Uh,
All right. Greetings, all. Welcome to the One Night Your Podcast. Welcome to the One Night Your Podcast. Share. Hit like. And also, once again, there you go, Stan. You don't know how to work your phone, Stan. No, you don't. We go through this every Sunday. No. Mike, crack your mic. Is it not? Am I lying? Is it like every Sunday?
every Sunday.
What do I say? What do I say when I walk in?
You say, mute your phones. It was me. It came on its own. It came on its own. I don't know what happened. Has a mind of its own.
Share, like, crack all the mics. Thank you for joining. We appreciate our viewership. All right. Fun show today. Check in, let us know where you're from. If you're in NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, check this with your developer. If you live anywhere in the city, let us know where you're from. If you live out of the state, we want to know where you're from. City and town, city and state. Give us all that.
Yes.
Except for your Social Security.
We got people watching.
Yeah. Happy Sunday, Cam. See you. East Lake Tenants Union is watching. Our internship, she said, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, okay. We here. Share the show. All right, Mike, let's go. Go work.
Go.
So once again, greetings all. Welcome to the One Night Your Podcast. We are excited to be with you all again. We appreciate our viewership, right, guys?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. I let them know we appreciate y'all. So we're going to start off our normal. I'm going to go into my week. Money Mike's going to go into his week, and then Stan the Man will do his, and then we'll get into our guests. So as you know, as I always say, nothing changes. My week was busy and blessed. Monday, I attended a virtual seeker meeting. Stan, our intern joined as well.
Yes.
And she was able to introduce herself and, say who she was. So that was good. And it was good to be with the Seeker family and
yes.
a great organizing that they're doing around public housing, trying to keep public housing public.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
As I noted last week, the Social Justice Committee meeting, the Community Board 8, we had our meeting on Wednesday. I did say Monday because Mondays is our normal.
I checked it out. I was in there a little bit. Okay. I saw a little bit of it. Mm-hmm.
So we had that meeting. It was great. And we usually meet on the fourth Monday. So it was a little tricky so I kind of remembered Monday, but it was actually Wednesday. But the flyer, of course, was right. I just said the wrong date, but I shared it out right. We had guest speakers, as I said, that co-authored a research paper that was titled Concentrated Incarceration in the Public Housing to Prison Pipeline in New York City Neighborhoods. And then the next time we bringing them back for part 2, which will be this month on October 24th, we're going to bring some people in from the policy team with them. So it's going to be, we want a lot of public housing residents in that meeting. I'll be talking to you all about it up to that next Sunday right before, I guess that's the 23rd. We need y'all to be in that room to help steer the conversation, to say what y'all want regarding policy. You know what I'm saying? So, and then we hopefully some elected officials or people could really look into it.
Right.
And we could really get some things done. The Homicides Coalition, which I'm a co-founder of, we are prepping for our monthly meeting, which will be meeting on Wednesdays, the first Wednesday every month, with the exception when Build the Block has their quarterly meeting, we'll move to that first Monday of the month. But, and we're also gearing up for our Entrepreneurship and Empowerment Expo, which One Night will be featured there.
Yes.
And some other, phenomenal people. So I'll keep you all posted. Kim's gonna have a table. Kim will
Okay.
be tabling. Give her some. Kim will be tabling. So with that said, Monday night, I'm shooting it to you.
Smooth Monday night. Smooth. Well, like I always say, and like Stan just said, I was just smooth. My week was just smooth. And well, besides the time that I had to take this 1,000-pound table.
Wow.
Well,
How heavy was it?
Yeah, it's like 1,000 pounds. It's the
Wow.
table that, because the school gonna podcast as well. We're still building studios and schools.
Excellent,
But,
excellent.
they needed one of these tables, and it was extremely heavy. And the sad part is that it couldn't even fit, and it couldn't even fit inside the staircase.
Wow.
So we had to take it back. Well, wow, bring it back and bring it back down some stairs. I mean, it took it up the stairs first, took it down the stairs, had it on a dolly. Remind you, it's heavy on the dolly. So imagine carrying it. We can't just slide it because it would mess up the table.
Right.
Had to pick it up. Oh my
Wow.
God.
That's rough, man. I can't
I
imagine.
think I gained the
Checkmate.
muscles.
I'm sorry.
I gained the muscles.
Okay.
But besides me, let's hurry up and get to you, Stan. What you been doing this week?
All right. Well, this week was frustrating for me. I'm working with a Ravenswood resident who filed a letter of complaint. For anyone watching the show, I sit on the board at Just Fix, and we're able to do a letter of complaint. So if you're having issues in your apartment, there's no need to suffer without holding NYCHA accountable. You can file a letter of complaint. We send these letters to the highest levels of NYCHA, all the way up to the chairman and the new CEO. She gets the letter, as well as elected officials. So it's a way to really hold NYCHA accountable. And I'm urging anyone watching the show to reach out to us so we can file a letter for you. But the one in Ravenswood, this lady did a letter of complaint. I'm not going to mention her name because she's going to come on the show. And after a letter was done, everybody started jumping around, and she's supposed to be moved out of her house because her house has lead. We went down to the manager's office, and the staff member there actually said the lead is not an emergency. So I'm like, lead's not an emergency. How is that possible? There's no coordination. The manager's office does not know anything about the move out. It's a whole bunch of other people involved in it, and ultimately nothing is getting done. So now I'm in the position we probably got to go back down there again this week and really push it. But it's amazing the lack of respect. I don't think it's against the law for an advocate to work with a resident. They told me I had to stay outside. I'm only there to hear what they say. Right. To hold them accountable. So when you take the resident and put them to the side, there's nobody hearing that conversation but that resident and that person, the staff person. Right. So it's harder to hold them accountable, So these are the tactics that they're using, But again, she's supposed to be moving out. And the move out day was supposed to be Friday. We go there on a Wednesday, and the manager's office doesn't even know anything about it. It's unconscionable, So we got to pick up this fight again next week. And it's just what residents go through. And I tell any resident and all residents, I don't know. It's just frustrating. The amount of frustration that you deal with. It's tough to deal with the repair issue, but then to go down to the office and get treated like that. I had another lady call from the Bronx, same thing. She has a whole thing happening in her house, a leak. Called the manager's office, and I'm hearing the rudeness, and this leak is happening right now. And the manager just stepped out. The plumber ain't available. It's just too much, So I just say to all NYCHA residents, keep your head up. I know it's frustrating dealing with management and dealing with the lack of respect and systemic racism, the lack of a guard. It's just over the top, So just keep your head up, keep the fight going. Don't become discouraged, because that's kind of what they want you to do, so that you won't complain and you sit there and suffer in silence. So again, file a letter of complaint, get involved. We can help you do all those things. Let's start taking NYCHA to court. Okay. HP acts as individual and group.
Yeah, and we're going to have access to lawyers.
We're going to have access to, we're going to have some lawyers too with Just Fix. So we will be able to assist you for real, to really hold your hand through that process to hold them accountable, because, it's just not acceptable. It's totally not acceptable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Stan, for all of those updates. And we're going to segue into our guest. I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself, but she does hail from the Windy City.
Chicago.
Chicago. We have
Chi-town.
Chicago in the house.
Chi-town.
All right. So can you introduce yourself to our viewership? And then we're gonna shoot some questions to you and dialogue and, ride this one night your hour. Hello.
Hi. Yes. How are y'all? I'm like so excited to be on. You guys are like so inspirational in the work that you're doing and with NYCHA. I'm Shanna, ShowtimeShanna. I'm actually from Houston,
Okay.
Texas. But I've been living in Chicago for about 5 years now. Union organizer, tenant organizer to the highest degree. This work is not for the faint. It's
No.
definitely, you gotta have tough skin.
Mm.
Founder of Eastlake Tenants Union, also a union organizer for Eastlake Tenants Union. Just fighting to preserve what's left of public housing and organize and take over subsidized housing here in Chicago, government subsidized, because pretty much all of the projects have kind of been demolished. There's a few left. So we just have a whole bunch of scattered sites. So just a whole bunch of HUD-based tenants placed in these horrible buildings under terrible management. So really just being not only a voice, but some muscle for the people to organize and take their buildings back.
Wow. Well, give us
Wow.
some.
Yeah.
Give us
Yeah.
some.
Commend you for your work.
So you segued into a question I was going to ask you. I'm glad you mentioned it. The Eastlake Tenants Union. So it's founded by you, solely
Yes.
founded by you?
Well, myself, I founded it with other members.
You co-founded.
I'm sorry.
Is it co-founded or?
No, founded by me, but like other members.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
so I used to live in an Eastlake building. So I'm still I'm a voucher holder, but I live in an Eastlake building up until this year, actually. And from the minute I moved in, issues. And I never was in public housing or subsidized housing, so I didn't know that this was the norm. And it was like the first day I moved in, it was something. And my personality, I always I feel like I'm very outspoken, like I always stand up for myself. So I'm like, okay, I'm not having this.
Right.
And at that time, I didn't know anything about organizing. I was just like, listen, I'm just standing up for what's right. So I didn't know until I got educated, out housing organizing, whatever. But it was one battle with heat, which led to another battle, which led to another battle. And then in 2021, 2020 actually, started talking to more residents like, yo, there's a lot going on in our building. We already have a sense of community. Why don't we just get together, organize, have a union, build out, let's get, because we got a lot of issues, let's fix it.
Right.
And then in 2021, April, we had a grocery giveaway. We gave away groceries, toiletries, and stuff like that. Money, we gave away cash money.
Okay.
And we used that to money. I was like, hey, we gotta give away some money. And use that to know who's in the building. So I just, hey, fill this out. What floor are you on? What issues you have? Started having those meetings, and then ELTU. And now we're in different Eastlake buildings. And we're in one public housing building. It's not under Eastlake, but it's right next to an Eastlake building.
Okay.
But it's a senior public housing building, and they need a lot of help. So they're under us too. So we're just building out.
Wow.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Okay, a lot of work. Yeah, give us some. That's great. Great.
2020.
Right.
I was able to secure $2,500 and I gave out money to
Right.
It was $25, random residents, but then the Lord gave me the vision of 20. You could spread it a little more.
Right.
And that was amazing in the midst of the pandemic because we had food insecurities. People were kind of shut down, locked in, and one lady was literally crying.
Right.
So that's it was always good to help out the people. So okay, well I kind of got that answer and about the union. So and I'll let Stan go and
right. So now I know in Chicago, Cabrini Green was knocked down and tore down, and
Right.
now you're saying that pretty much public housing has come to an end. It seems like is coming to an end. So, do you talk about that, the effect of Cabrini Green being torn down on the city of Chicago, and actually, from what you're talking about, at what state is public housing in right now? It just sounds like it's coming to an end
In Chicago.
in Chicago.
Right. So actually, where Cabrini Green, what was that area? I mean, there is no right to return. So I know they promised residents when they tear down the projects, you can come back. We're going to rebuild on this land. You guys have the opportunity, the right to return, to come back to where you resided. Unless I don't know if anybody want to chime in, or resident, if you're tuning in, I don't know one person that has had that right to return back to their area. And so even now, there's land, 24th and State, it's a public housing site. I believe it was the Ickeys, Harold Ickeys. That land, it's a whole plot of land, 24 acres. And they were supposed to build affordable subsidized housing on that land for those tenants to return. Now they're leasing it to the Chicago Public Schools.
Wow.
So the city does a very good job of gaslighting and lying. The housing authority as well. They do not want to preserve public housing. And specifically when they did tear down the public housing sites, that's kind of how Eastlake popped up. So these old public housing sites or public housing residents, a lot of them have been placed in Eastlake owned buildings. Eastlake is one of the largest property management companies in the city of Chicago, in the Midwest. They operate in the Midwest, the city of Chicago. They have over 100 buildings, occupy thousands and thousands of units. And so tenants have just been placed under this management, the same exact conditions, the same exact issues that were going on in public housing, the same exact thing. They're still receiving the subsidy. It's now privatized.
Wow.
Sounds like
Wow.
I see
Wow.
to a degree where we could be. We're not there yet.
Right. We're heading on. If we don't stop it here, we're going to
Gotta
be there.
stop
So
it.
people need to pay attention, because we're on this road ourselves.
Right.
Obama.
Yeah.
Obama, the red and everything else. Unbelievable. Mike, you got a question, and you're gonna jump into the chat real quick too, because I know
No, I was just looking
chiming
at
in.
that.
People are chiming in.
That I want to file some letters in my house without a toilet.
Yeah, Kim, I can do that. Yeah,
Waiting for NYCHA, I need to speak.
No toilet?
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
crazy.
Let's file a letter of complaint. Absolutely.
That's inhumane.
These managers need to be fired.
Correct.
In New York City, $72 billion allocated to NYCHA to revamp management.
That's a waste of money.
Right.
That's what it is, to revamp management. That's
So-
crazy.
Right.
Right, because revamp them how?
Right.
Right.
They need,
Right.
managers need to be trained.
Needs to have qualification, have managerial and supervise
Right. Absolutely.
skills, like myself. right?
Absolutely.
I'm not
Right.
saying, my point is, you're gonna pay $70 billion. Can you send us a link to that, Emily, about that? And when did this take place? Because that's a lot of 72 billion is what we need
Right.
for our repairs. We need 80.
Right. Right.
So how is that number?
That would be insane. That would be insane. That would be
72
insane.
billion?
That would be
Where was
insane.
that? Emily put it in there. Please give us clarification. Please. If it's an error, that's fine. But if it's accurate, I got a problem with that.
Right.
Wow.
Jim over here saying residents should be managers.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, we know
Yeah.
what's going on in our development. So, and it depends. You want to put somebody that has a skill set, like we spoke about
Right.
last week. And you don't need the person that lives in their development, managing their development.
Right.
Because that'll cause the favoritism. It's, you send them somewhere else, that's a job.
Right.
But it should be, the residents that are qualified. Let's be honest, like,
Right.
So forget, something.
Yeah. Residents are spread out. So they're not in development. It's like they're in several different buildings where they're doing public housing there. Is it spread out like that?
Yeah, so the residents, so what we have here, it's literally called scattered sites. So there are various buildings throughout the city of Chicago where management companies, the housing authority is still in some of them. Like in the building I lived with, I was still under the Chicago Housing Authority, but my manager was just Eastlake. So CHA has essentially disseminated the power to these management companies because it's like, listen, we just giving y'all the money. Y'all manage these buildings how y'all want.
Wow.
We don't really want that responsibility, and everything is privatized too. So we don't have access to certain documents or certain things that should be public, or the public input and buy-in, because it's privatized. So residents are they're just spread all over the city. In Eastlake, like I said, they have a few buildings on the north side, saturated on the south and west sides, but all across the city, the same exact issues. And I know y'all just talked about poor management. They hire the same type of managers based off of
Right.
what you were just saying. These managers, they deliberately hire the same type, and it's
Right.
not to manage the building, it's to mismanage and run the building to the ground, if you ask me.
Wow. So as an organizer, I know it must be challenging. I know if you go into a particular development, it's challenging organizing, period. But it must be extremely challenging getting people together that live in different locations. So can you speak to that organizing work? And I commend you for it, because that has to be challenging.
Woo! It's very challenging. Essentially, the first thing is always the management. And this one building, the public housing building, the senior public housing, we just actually had a tour with the state senator this week. And the level of disrespect, they really did not want us in there. They were even telling him he had to go.
The state senator.
The state senator. I don't think they believed he was a state senator, because one of the managers was like, I don't care. When he addressed him and, said who he was. And it's just like, but me, I don't back down. This same building, they've called the police on me. And when the police came, I told them, well, I'll be back here tomorrow. So is this the protocol? And nothing happened or anything, thank God. But it's like, I'm going to still keep coming back. Like, you're not going to stop this organizing, because they use these little scare tactics. But with the residents, a lot of it is fear, because they do have these managers that say things, that threaten them with letters, and they might not be educated on their rights, because it's not like they're really being taught. They don't want them to know their rights. So they're scared. They're like, a union. No, I don't want to lose my housing, because nobody wants to lose their housing.
Right.
But it's like, no, you have rights. You don't have to live like this. Like, and I'm a testament. I'm living in this myself. Like, you don't have to live like this. You can stand up. You have to be your own advocate in these buildings.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that's what happens.
Right.
With things, you become an activist, an organizer, sometimes not that you want to be.
Forced to be, before you force into it.
Impact you directly and or, towards your family or something like that. Or it's just a human heart, right?
Right.
That want to get out there and, fight for the rights of others, because others are just, we gotta be the strong, gotta be there for the, the weak, and it's, to seniors,
Right.
Disabled people, different people that really can't get out there and do the work. That's what, we're here for.
Right.
That's our purpose. So that's good to know. I want to segue a little bit, because I'm just curious. I know I hear a lot on the news. How is crime out there in Chicago, and how is the police and community relations, especially with Black and Brown communities?
Good question.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you're specifically asking how the police play a role in our communities?
Right.
Well, how is the relations, like, crime? I asked about crime, and then, the relationship.
We hear Chi-Town is rough. That's what they say. Okay.
Well, and that's the misconception. Like, even where I live now, I live 79th Street. I live over east, which is like they call it Tarrytown. It's literally like propaganda. And I say that because, like, even before I first moved here, I was under the impression, oh, when you walk outside, you're going to get shot. You know what I mean? Because that's what is put to the public. That's what the media says. And it's really not all that bad. I mean, you of course there is like crime because there are a lot of disenfranchised communities here,
Right.
and the city does a good job of segregating, cutting off resources and access to certain communities, specifically Black and Brown,
Right.
and there is crime, but the police relations, it's not good, especially
Mm,
with BLM protests, and
Mhm.
Chicago has a very racist history, still does.
mm,
And they don't care about us, especially if you're on housing. I tell people on housing all the time, they definitely don't care about us. So if you calling them thinking they're gonna save you, you're having an issue with the landlord or whatever, they're always gonna side with the powers that be. They're never gonna side with us. So that's kind of how it is here. It's very corrupt.
Mhm. It's all over.
yeah,
It's like-
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I was gonna, yeah, I was gonna,
The
yeah.
gang in blue.
Right,
The
right,
gang in blue,
right,
right? That's what they are,
right,
right?
right,
That's what they say. I
right.
come from law enforcement, but I seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, and I always
Mhm.
spoke truth to power. So,
Yeah, so now I know here in New York, a lot of the elected officials have sold us out. The city council has voted for this privatization. The mayor has voted for this privatization. The governor has voted for this privatization. So they have all sold us out for the Preservation Trust. So what are the politicians saying in Chicago? Are they all on board with this privatization? Or is that the situation?
Well, we have a few actually progressives that are actually aldermans, that's what they call aldermans here, that are actually we need affordable and supportive housing. We do have a very few, but there's a lot of especially in my area in the south and west sides, there's a lot of old, they've been sitting in there, bourgeoisie Black folks that do not care about the poor.
Mm,
And they have no problem cutting side deals with the developer, the mayor the same way,
mm,
deals
corruption.
with these developers. And I know now the mayor has this Invest in South and West initiative where it's like, oh, we're investing in the South and West sides. But to the locals, what we see is gentrification across the board.
mm.
It's
Okay.
not it's gentrification, which is what we kind of attribute to the dissemination of our buildings, the incoming gentrification. So the politicians, they're not our saving grace. Like I said, we do have a few that are a blessing because they can help us, assist us, make things easier for us. And hopefully we have a few seats that are coming up that are empty that, we want new fresh blood in there that can help us improve or whatever. But the people have got to get organized. I
Yeah.
mean, because the privatization, they're gonna keep pushing for that.
Mhm.
Right, right.
It's
So-
the same all over, right?
Right.
Yeah, money might.
But
be
nah,
like-
I would say
yeah.
John Furman said privatization results in worse maintenance. The owners have to pay back the debt and there's no money left to maintain the building.
Absolutely. For those who I guess may be tuning on to the show for the first time, the reason why we are against the trust is it's like a real estate deal. Ultimately, I don't want to make it overly simplified, but if they borrow and they assume all this debt, we're talking about people that we can't find out where a dollar go. So we're gonna actually imagine and believe
Right.
that these people are gonna be good stewards over this money and do the right thing. It's too much risk. And then if they don't do the right thing, it's gone. It's like a foreclosure. The bank owns it and we're out, So, we're not for it. And it's terribly dangerous. And then you see what's the kind of slumlords that they have, that they choose.
He said low income housing tax credit is only to develop affordable housing. It primarily benefits banks and lawyers. We
Right.
have to demand the funding for Section 3 public housing housing be increased. It is more cost effective for communities to build their own housing without giving money to the rich. Tenants
Speak.
have to demand a greater say in the operation of public
Who was
Right.
that?
public housing.
Was that again?
That's John Furman.
Okay.
That housing is a human right. Rent
Absolutely.
must be
Housing, human right.
income based.
Right.
Fighting
Right.
Income
That
based.
rent.
Right.
We have to demand that tenants pay no more than 30% of
Right.
their
It's
income
only
and
Right.
rent.
Right.
affordable housing. That's what we pay in public housing. I believe, I'm not too sure, I don't want to speak of it, but I remember when, as a payroll supervisor, when I used to have to fill out the form for the income affidavit, the ones for the Michelamas it was literally identical, just
Right.
different wording, but it was literally identical. So, and I'm not sure if they have to pay 30%, but it might be, but I don't want to speak of it if I don't know for sure. What I wanted to ask you was, because, you know, we all remember good times.
Yeah.
Right.
Still watching to this day.
Remember what was it, Alderman Harris?
Alderman Harris, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So we don't have an alderman here, right, in New York,
Right,
right? We don't
no.
have we don't have that actual title. Can you speak to people what the alderman, what's their function, if you know offhand? Because
Yes.
I'm trying to see where it fits, like for us, because we have a public advocate.
It sounds like city council, but she can describe it.
Well, yeah.
It sounds a little bit like it.
Yes, exactly. So the aldermen, even though we got too many, we got 50 aldermen.
Okay.
That's too many, but they are our city councils. So
Okay.
they have their wards, so 50 wards, and they're
Okay.
governing that ward. But they are essentially, you know, when we are having issues in these buildings, they are supposed to step in.
Right.
And they are supposed to use their powers to correct and ensure that these landlord or property managers are doing what they're supposed to do, and also ensure that the housing authority is doing what they're supposed to do as well. But again, we have like a few progressives that are, you know, stepping up to the plate, like a few, I mean, like on one hand, and the rest of them, again, they don't care about the poor. So yeah, they're supposed to serve like constituent affairs. So if I have a water leak, or you know, plumbing issues in general, we have 311, which is really useless. But they're supposed to make sure the Department of Buildings is coming out and finding these buildings, making sure that, you know, the tickets are being fulfilled, making sure that, again, is the trash being taken out, you know what I mean, the conditions of the building are kept up, but they could care less.
Wow.
In our buildings,
Sound like New York.
a small landlord, they might enforce it, but in these
Right.
buildings,
That's like New York, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, they come down on the private landlords, but the city, because it's a housing authority, is no accountability. And that's sad.
Yeah, it
You know what I'm
is.
saying? And we have council, I think it's like 50, it's 50 council seats, 50 or 51. I should know, but yeah, so that's crazy. But you have any people in your team that's looking to run for office to make a difference? Because, you know, that's where it all starts at. But one of the things is, you know, people start out in this realm and they do this organizing, and then when they get on that other side, they got to stay, you know,
Yeah,
they gotta do the
organizing.
work.
Like Tamani,
Right, they
like
gotta-
Tamani
right,
Williams, change
like,
over.
to
Yep.
organize,
Mhm.
councilman, public advocate. We need people that when they do jump the broom to go over there to be elected official, we need them to remember the fight. You know,
Right.
don't
Stay an
go in,
organizer.
you know, and become corrupt, or you know,
Right.
the bribes and everything else that goes with politics. So do you have anybody with your team? And I know when we spoke over the phone, you said there's a guy out there from Queens.
yes,
with you.
Levi, I'm sure not Levi, but he's actually from Queens,
Okay.
New York. He's out here. He's not running, but he's right now focusing on law school. He's working, of course,
Okay.
doing stuff with the union, but he's more like our researcher,
Okay.
handling certain things like policy, because that's his background. So
Nice.
not the office realm, but we are like, now that these aldermanic seats are gonna be vacant because you know the people sitting there, they're retiring or whatever. We are like, hey, we need some progressives in these seats. So that definitely is on our caliber. On my team specifically, or the orgs I work with, none of us or any of the organizers I know that are running, but we are in talks with like other potential candidates who are, and where do they see these initiatives, and you know,
That's good.
their
So we know what's
platform.
needed. Are
Right.
there term limits with all the aldermen? Do you know?
Yeah, so the alderman is every 4 years. I
Very
believe.
similar to us. Well, you every
Right.
2 years with us, right?
But is there term
Every
limit?
3 to 4 years, I think.
But is there, do you know if it's term limits?
Like, can they stay there forever?
Oh, No, there's no term. Like the one that the fifth ward alderman, she's been there over 15 years.
Okay,
So
Mm.
yeah, you can sit.
okay,
You
okay.
can just sit in those seats.
So that's something you gotta get a shovel to get some of them people out, because some people, career politicians
Right.
don't want to go
Right.
nowhere.
Once you
Look-
get in, yeah.
Look at Gail Brewer, went from Manhattan Borough President back into a city council
Right,
seat.
right.
Not a problem.
Right.
That's career politician.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm encourage you to run. I think you should probably think about it. To me, put your hat in the ring. I know it's challenging. I ran and Saundrea ran, and it's really tough. But when you step out, maybe that will encourage others, because we do have to be the change we want to see, because they're not going to change. Once you get on in them offices, we see what they do. So maybe we got to be that change ourselves. So I'm encouraging you.
I
Yeah,
see
yeah.
myself, I'm a little like, I don't know. I don't know if I could feel that position, but I see myself as, I'm gonna do the work in the out, like,
Regardless.
regardless, not political, like, because I feel like when I get in there, I gotta act a certain way, I gotta do things a
Mhm.
different way, I gotta, I can get power in different ways,
Absolutely.
but I definitely will back somebody like,
Mhm.
yo, you got to get in the seat, like, and be out there for you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can endorse as a leader, you can endorse people, not under your union, but
Right.
as an entity yourself, you could definitely can endorse people. So that's, and that brings not just power to you, but to them, right?
Mhm.
Because that brings them potential constituents,
Right.
which is
Right.
very important. But it's always good to keep the voice out and the demands, the
demands,
out,
right.
because it's so needed. So Chicago sounds similar to New York.
Sounds
City,
like
for real.
right.
It's
Yeah.
very similar. I got family in Crown Heights, so
Okay.
I'm familiar with New York, and it's definitely very similar. There's also this whole thing of like, there's a lot of like electeds or people in these places, even with the housing authorities, that look like us.
Mm.
We're expecting them, oh, finally we got a Black CEO over the housing authority or whatever. She's a woman, whatever. But it's like, they're still gonna run it to the ground. We got to get out of that identity politics
Yeah.
realm of who's actually gonna put in the work,
So the CEO is a Black woman?
Yes.
Wow, that's so disturbing.
For the year.
Right, that's so
We had
disturbing.
a housing chair.
Right, yeah, that's so
There
disturbing.
was a lot of the lead poisoning scandal
Right.
under her.
Right.
She was able to resign.
Right,
She didn't go to jail. Nobody under her went to jail. She was able to actually resign. And there was like either 150 or 170 something 70-page report that I believe I had
Right.
sent it to you, that the investigations were done, but like nothing happened.
Right.
Nothing
About the
happened.
lead, you know what I'm saying? About the issues with the lead poisoning, but somebody's responsible for that.
right,
There should be some oversight. I mean,
Right.
this just shows the cloak of immunity that's hovering over our elected officials and people that actually are working in these high positions. They're literally like untouchable.
right,
Right.
You know,
Right.
And that is no
Nonsense.
This is not the world we live in.
right,
You understand what I'm saying? Like they got to really do something bad. I mean, bad is allowing kids to be poisoned with lead and covering it up. That's bad.
right,
That's
right.
a crime,
Absolutely.
You know,
They are the real criminals.
of
And I'm like,
course.
what's the difference? Because they're doing blue collar, but like you said, lead, people are dying. I know a tenant and she got lung cancer. I definitely believe it was due to her living in the condition she was living in.
Right,
And, they're committing all these acts. They never see a court of law. They barely get press coverage over what they're doing. And it's like,
yeah.
why is that? And they're abusing taxpayer dollars, because they love to throw that around, taxpayer dollars. Well, this is where the money is going, and what is there to show for it,
Now, how's the court system? I know here we have the opportunity, I guess, to take residents to court, and in many ways, the court system has failed NYCHA residents. HPD has failed NYCHA residents. They should be going in there and demanding that the work gets done. In many cases, that doesn't happen. So when you guys go to court, what happens then? Are you getting support from the court system or not really?
It is a battle. And I know earlier you were talking about with your group, I think Justice or Just Fix It, getting a team of lawyers.
Right.
That is something that we're looking at. Although we know we got power, because you'll be in court for years playing with these people. But the courts, they're definitely not on our side. And it is a battle. Like even we have like the administrative hearings with the housing authorities. So they have like a judge or, you know, someone serving or whatever. Those hearings are almost never in favor of the tenant. It's like
Wow.
siding with the housing authority, you know what I mean? And it's like all these amounts of evidence these people are doing, you know, no heat for years. Tenants are going without heat for years. All these things that's going on, and you still have the nerve to chastise tenants, to say, oh, you know, you should have done this. Or it's like they literally are looking down on us. So but these are things that we're trying to bring aware, like use social media really to bring awareness on this is what's going on to our population of people.
Have there been any renovations in any cases that you know of? After the case is resolved?
Not that I know of, but I do know some tenants who are like a couple that's going through this situation right now. And they're like everything is just corrupt. Like they, you know, but other than that, that's it. Thank God.
That's unfortunate because we experienced it. And you could jump in after that.
Mhm.
The Homesizers Coalition, we formed that in 2019, and we sued NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, on December 13th, Friday the 13th at that. 2019, we did a HPX and housing parts lawsuit, and we're still in court, and even in the midst of the pandemic, virtually meeting. But NYCHA never was held in contempt. We've had inspection after inspection. They've inspected our elevators. It's 5 buildings, 2 developments. They inspected our elevators. I can't tell you under the court, under the stipulations, I can't tell you how many times they have inspected our boilers. I can't tell you how many times they've been out to the grounds. I can't tell you how many times. And nothing has been done. Like, in the one of the times we went in court virtually, and the judge was actually gonna not necessarily discontinue the case, but like kind of put it on the back burner in a sense, and trying to tell us to work with management. So we do work with the, is under the federal monitorship, the, what is it called? Oh my gosh. We did the walkthrough, compliance.
Compliance, right, compliance, right. Right.
So we do work with the compliance unit. We have a meeting with them every other week, to give some reports, and we've done a few walkthroughs of the ground. But I never forget that last court date when the judge was trying to discontinue, seemed like she was trying to throw the case out like it's done.
Right.
I had wrote on an envelope and I put up, why is NYCHA not in front of on my camera? Why is NYCHA not held in contempt? And that was the only reason she didn't discontinue our case. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I had to do something like that. And it was so funny because the lawyer from the law department, from New York City Law Department, working for NYCHA, actually read what I wrote out loud.
Wow.
Which was so it just literally went on record, right?
Right.
And the judge had to so we doing that work, but we still one elevator working, one not working, elevators out. We still have the infestation on the grounds, rats. People still got the leaks, the mold, asbestos is being discovered. It's just one thing after another. So, and nobody's held accountable.
Right.
So I understand, that's why I asked about a renovation, because I hope when our stuff is concluded, they give us something for all these years of suffering.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, come on, no. All we get is sentenced to be stuck in these conditions forever. No.
Right.
So, but I just wanted to share that because I get it. You know what I'm saying? I know the frustration. But, when they do go to court, hold their hand, be with them and tell them, keep your court dates, keep showing up, because NYCHA, these public housing authorities, PHAs know how to call you in, take you for non-payment and so forth like that, and you can take them to court too. So people we need to flip it, we need to start taking them to court.
Right.
But go ahead, Sam.
So I know, in Queensbridge, we sued Queensbridge. We're going to be suing Ravenswood. So is it possible to get these tenants to come together to do a collective lawsuit? That's the first question, I guess. And the second is, how can we be of help? I guess I would encourage residents in New York or anywhere. If you're having issues in your apartment, you could use this platform and actually
Yes.
put the pictures up, because the pictures speak a lot. They say they speak a thousand words, so we are encouraging that. So back to the first question, can you get them to do a collective lawsuit? You think that's possible?
That is the woman who I was saying, the tenant who I knew had passed away from lung cancer. That's one thing. Before she died, God rest her soul, she was like, we gotta sue Eastlake. That was her whole thing. But she couldn't find any lawyer to take the case. She was like, nobody wants to take it. And I know we've talked about that in the union. We've talked about the legal strategies that we want to put together. I know one major slumlord, Pangea, was just taken to court. Tenants banded together and sued them for repairs. That is something we're looking at, but we also know the long haul of that. So that's stuff we have to plan out. Like, hey, we might be in court for some years. If that, how can we speed this up? How can we make this go in our favor? Because we always look at, yes, we know it's against us. The courts, they don't care about us or whatever. But how can we get them? Like, how can we, push them to do what we want?
Right.
So those are strategies that we've been thinking about, but definitely suing them, because what they're doing is heinous, and money talks. I mean,
Right.
that's literally all it is. Money talks.
Yeah.
So that's to answer your question.
I would say too, if you're speaking to residents individually, we have residents that have filed individual HP action, housing parts, lawsuits, and you don't need an attorney, to do something
Right.
like that. You go in and the clerk is going to help you, fill out the
Right.
form, and then boom, there go your case, and you represent yourself. Who can represent you better
than you
about your conditions?
Right.
So I would just strongly urge residents on here that live in the city, in New York City, if you don't have an HP action class action type suit, do your individual HP action lawsuit. A lot of residents have done that. Besides the collective one, the collective ones seem or appear more powerful because yes, you will have an attorney representing you and stuff like that. But can you imagine a senior showing up to court before a judge by herself or with somebody with her, but she has to go before the judge and tell her conditions?
Right.
That's a whole nother. The visual of that is enough to make sure this resident gets everything done. So that's always an option, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
Getting people done, going out like that individually, supporting them and going with them to help figure it, fill out the form and stuff and just make their court dates. Make your court date and get thrown out.
Right.
That's another way to get them to, you have access to the lawyers and able to do a class action. Because with the class action, you're not going to get everybody.
Right.
I mean, we had more than Queensbridge, which I had 12 or 13.
About 15 filed with us.
Okay, 15. Okay, we had 31 or 2, and we have 5 buildings. Queensbridge is the largest development in New York City. So when you think about that, everybody doesn't want to get on board, unfortunately. So that's what I'm saying too. Don't expect everybody to sign on the lawsuit or class action. But if you speak to people individually, that'll clog up the court system also. Can you imagine that?
Right. And I also, Just Fix is not just in New York. So I'm going to find out if we are in Illinois, in Chicago. And if so, and I guess we're going to hopefully eventually be there if we're not there already. And then we should maybe be able to help you guys out, in that. And I guess even if it's tough. I know there's a lack of lawyers even here in New York. We're having that same issue. There's so much legal issues that the people need and not enough lawyers to really work on it.
You also got to remember too, doing a class action lawsuit for public housing, there's no real money in there. But
I think they're privatized. So there is money there in Eastlake.
One of the things, I think one of the buildings is not, it's still not.
Well, so even under Eastlake, like the one I was telling you, the couple that's going through the renovation thing, that's public housing. Their site, Washington Park Homes, that's public housing.
Right.
So Eastlake does manage some public housing sites.
So Eastlake is a private. They privatize these developments, but they also are still also managing public housing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
It's like they're broken up in the sense.
That's crazy.
But one of
scattered sites.
Yeah, what I was saying is like, it's really no money in those type of lawsuits. So you're getting probably lawyers that's gonna do it on pro bono, maybe want to name because public housing
Right.
is bad.
Mhm.
You know, and that could be, you know, you could be the next Cutler of public housing, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
A known attorney, you know, getting things done, but it's really no money for them unless it's like a lead poisoning case, you know what I'm saying? Something like that, then that's a totally different animal. But if it's for repairs and stuff like that, like we had, our council member was paying our attorneys at one time.
Mhm.
And I don't know if the new council member is doing that as of yet or not, I don't know, but that was because, you know, he knew the work we was doing.
Mhm.
And they can do that for you. So that's another resource. Reach out to your alderman to help retain a lawyer as well. You know what I'm saying? That's another avenue. But it's like I said, it's the money for the lawsuit is it's different. It's a different type of civil lawsuit.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'll say this. I mean, we haven't. I mean, I'm not going to speak. There's another organizer who's going to come on, and so I don't want to speak on his work because he's doing tremendous work, and I respect his work. But it's in a development that's privatized. Boulevard houses, Linden houses. These are in Eastern York, and so we're
Boulevard
gonna
is new, a new.
I knew right, and so we're gonna look into the possibility of a lawsuit with them,
Mhm.
and now in that case, those fines with Just Fix become applicable in a sense because you're private, you know, so they get away with it with NYCHA. They say, well, we're public, and so
Right.
these fines they don't count. But when you're a private owner, a private manager, those fines do count, you know. So I think we haven't had a lawsuit yet with one of these privatized developments, but I think that's the way to go. To actually see. Now, I don't know if there's money in there or not. I don't know, but I think
I'm
that
speaking for the lawyer.
right. No,
Right.
the lawyer, right? No,
Right.
but the tenant,
Right.
their fines, you know, that these private managers have to abide by. There are fines for that. Like the letters of complaint are actually more effective in a private situation than they are with NYCHA. You know, so being in your situation is private. That's something to take a look at. I think a lawsuit can actually get you guys some justice. You know, because now that they're private.
What we're looking at is tenant-owned buildings.
Okay.
We have a few of them here on the north side where tenants were able to form a union and literally take over and buy their building.
Wow.
And that is what
Lots-
we're looking
lots
at.
of
And
unions,
actually,
yeah.
our researcher, Levi, pulled up one in New York.
Yeah.
Or New York, y'all used to have a transfer ownership program or something like the NYC
Mm-hmm.
ownership transfer program.
Some buildings don't
Where
do it
tenants
like
were
that.
able to get their buildings. So that's what we're looking at because we don't want to leave. You're not going to displace us because they're just trying to push us out to the suburbs and out the city. We want to stay in our buildings, stay in our neighborhoods, combat the gentrification, and stay in our buildings. So we want to take over them.
Y'all want to own it.
We want to own it.
Possibly.
That's
Mhm.
very good.
Public housing too. A tenant last night said public housing is the only permanent housing.
Right.
Why wouldn't we save public housing? Why wouldn't we want to save that? You
No,
Right.
true affordable housing too.
Right.
True.
Right.
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 But
Right.
when life happens, your income will be adjusted once you bring in your documentation. You can't take that to a private landlord. They'll go, so
Right.
this is
Right.
supposed to pay. So
Right.
you know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? I want my money. So
Right. That's
in
right.
court, I'm kicking you out. You
That's
know?
how it goes.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That's
Wow.
good. Well, you got your job cut out for you. So, and no better person to do it, getting it done.
Now, that's one question I know here in New York, it's sky high, so that's why we need public housing, because if you're not in that situation, I think the average apartment in New York is like $22,500, which is insane. So what is the rent situation like in Chicago? Is it similar to what we're dealing with here?
Yeah, I mean, even my cousin, I'm like, in Crown Heights, I'm like, listen, how much are y'all paying?
Yeah.
Like, this is just ridiculous,
Right.
And Chicago is getting on up there. The neighborhood where my building was, where I used to live, the Eastlake building, I wanted to stay in that neighborhood. I wanted with my voucher, to stay in that neighborhood, use my voucher and whatever. You can't afford anything over there. I have great friends, generations that grew up in that neighborhood, Brownsville, a historically Black blues district, all that in Brownsville. It's turning into Beigeville.
Right.
They're kicking us all out the city. You know what I mean? So the rent is sky high. And I know there's some people who are championing this, like, oh, we don't need, they say, oh, we don't need any more projects. That's what they say here. Or we don't need housing. And it's like, the pandemic should have showed you guys, a lot of y'all market rent people were not paying rent and
Right.
probably still not paying rent. So who does not want income-based, truly affordable housing?
Right.
Right.
Who wants to pay, when your job is not certain, your income is not certain, or
Right.
you can't see your family because you're at work all the time? Who wants to pay $2,000, $3,000 for a 1-bedroom?
Right. That's insane. That's what we're dealing with here. And all the elected officials are down with it. Most
Right.
of them have been paid off, by the private developers with their elections and their campaigns. So I'm imagining and envisioning the same is happening there, where these aldermen are getting paid off. Is that what's happening?
We actually have, y'all mentioned Obama earlier. We have the presidential center is coming actually to my neighborhood where I live now. And everybody the real estate developers, I call them real estate vultures, they're flocking to the neighborhood,
Mm.
buying up property. The real estate agents are advertising this center that has not even touched down yet.
Mm.
Rent is going up.
Yeah.
Housing is going up. They're building these little builder homes on these vacant lots. They're going for more $500,000 next to maybe a $70,000 house. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Which
it's
is the whole
happening.
neighborhood. Mm-hmm.
It's happening before our eyes, and they're trying to pull the wool over, Obama, and also it's going to bring jobs. They're not going to bring livable wage jobs. And in
Mhm.
our neighborhoods, we're not going to be the ones working those jobs. So we will
Yeah.
never be able to afford what y'all are bringing
Right.
into the neighborhood.
But they'll
So,
promise it to you all though. That's that.
Well, they
for
do the
them to be
same
able to
crap
do
here.
that,
Right.
well,
Same thing.
all they've ever said, and the question is, like, they'll say jobs. Okay, what jobs? Are
Right.
you talking landscaping? Are you talking, will the people in this neighborhood be, working in executive positions at the center? What will you be doing? And the answer is no, because
Right.
even who's doing the construction, they're not even minority, they're white-owned construction companies, are doing the construction for the groundbreaking. So it's like, okay, again, you're pulling the wool over the Black community. And the politicians, like you said, they're down with it. They're like, hey, we could care less. We want all you Negroes gotta go.
Right. Right.
That's
Well,
what it
It's
is.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And I'll just say, any politician that not taking any money, you're welcome to come on the show and tell the public you're not taking that.
They scared. I think they scared.
Most, they said
Yeah, I said most.
NYC, so that's all y'all ain't taking that money.
They scared. They scared. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you.
Do you take any money from developers?
So now,
That's a Stan gonna ask you.
here goes a big question. So Obama is Chicago-based politician, our former president, who actually was behind this RAD stuff. You want to get down to it. So how are people responding to Obama in Chicago, especially those who live in public housing, knowing this initiative came from him?
Honestly, they're waking up. Because, for it used to be Obama, and really how he's really been able to do all this is through his wife, because everybody loves his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But they are really waking up to actually Obama really screwed our city over. And especially living in housing, because the first thing they're going to say is that center. They're going to mention the center coming. They're going to be like, an Obama center. The rent is already going up. Everybody you talk to in the neighborhood, they're like the Obama Center. And they also say, what is it for? What is that doing for our neighborhood? The RAD conversion is the same way.
Yeah.
RAD is bad.
That's what we say.
The public housing developments that we're in, Ella Flag, Washington Park Homes, and others, no, RAD is bad. And I believe we haven't confirmed it yet, but Ella Flag, they said that RAD had came around before the pandemic, offering, flying or whatever about the building. They stopped. But I said they're gonna come back because you're prime real estate.
Right.
And you're a high rise, you got a parking lot, you're in Uptown, it's perfect, you're right next to the lake. You know what I mean? This is a real estate developer's dream.
And it's
So-
already built up. It's already
Right,
there.
right.
It's already there. They just
Right.
gotta
Take
renovate
over.
it. Right. They just have to renovate it and kick you guys out, which is what they're doing. So that's why they're not making the repairs, hoping all y'all just move out.
Right.
But yeah, people are actually waking up because, and that's also why it's hard even with dealing with politicians, because people are like, listen, I'm sick of politicians.
Hmm.
I've been in housing for over 20 years or 30 years, and it's been the same thing. What makes you different? You elected, that's campaigning, knocking on my door. What makes you different?
Right.
What you gonna do for me? What you
Right.
gonna do for me and my
Right.
people.
And
Right.
what about Farrakhan? He's out there, and Jesse Jackson. Those are some iconic people. What does Farrakhan have to say? Is he saying anything?
I know the group I'm working with, the Obama CBA, they're doing the housing protections to make sure people stay in the neighborhood with the Obama Center. And he's actually, his mosque and, all his people are really saturated in our neighborhood, Jackson Park, over East. That's where the mosque is. And they know, but that's not on his radar. I told myself, I was like, you know what? I want to do a sit down with him. Like, I want to like talk to him, like pick his brain about it, because I'm like, I don't know if they'll ever touch the mosque, like if they'll ever do the gentrification. It might, I don't know. But I'm like, a lot of your members are in these neighborhoods renting, can't afford it, on housing or whatever. And it's like, what do you have to say about this? Like, you need to call this out. What's going on? I'm not sure his stance is on Obama. I don't know how he is, if y'all can fill me in, but it's not something that they really talk about. I know we have met with people from the final call. They put some stuff in about the center and what it's bringing, the displacement and stuff like that, but from him himself, I haven't heard anything.
But that's not good. I mean, Farrakhan's very outspoken.
Right.
Surprised, I'm just a little shocked, and I'm not gonna say no more. I'll leave it there.
Because listen, they gonna be all up on it. They gonna be out my door.
Yeah,
The Muslim brothers gonna be out my door.
I'm gonna leave it right there.
They
I'm
gonna be
gonna
out my
leave it
door.
there. I
Like,
don't
what
start
you
no
saying about the
controversy.
minister?
I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. But I would, if we could work with you,
Yeah.
to, I guess, reach out to the final call. So I am curious, and as a public figure with so much influence, he should have something to say. And so
Something
should
to
Jesse
say.
Jackson, I believe, and these are iconic people that should be saying something.
He lives over here too.
Reverend Al don't say nothing over here. I mean, I don't want the nation to
Well,
not sure that's never on me, but
And not in his defense, but when the infill proposal came to us, some of the residents were saying, let's call Reverend Al, let's call Reverend Al.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna throw the person name out, but somebody from Community Voices heard, didn't want to like kind of.
they hush that.
They drowned that outcry of people. So who's to say he might have been in this fight with us in 2015? Maybe.
So I believe, but I look like why I still people like that
Reverend Al Sharpton.
or Farrakhan and why they. I mean, I'm just concerned or confused
Mhm.
as to why they're so quiet. When you
Why
know
they
you
so
have a
quiet?
platform that you could say something. If Farrakhan today said something, that's national
Say he
news.
was not-
Right.
I'm gonna leave it alone.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Didn't he, Mike? What did he say he wasn't gonna do? That he just did again?
Well, call
Okay.
them out. Okay. Well, but the day, hey, this is what it is.
All the straight is
Maybe-
straight.
Right. Maybe he did.
Or said something about housing. Let's not say he didn't. Let's do our research. first.
Okay.
That's your.
That's my okay. So I'm gonna have to come back and report. I'm gonna research and see, because I mean I'm a supporter. I know Farrakhan says, but I'm generally support,
Right.
what the Nation of Islam does. And I know that, I went to the Million Man March. I mean, I'm a supporter, and I just know that there's, even here in New York, that's a question. I'm gonna have to ask some of my friends, like, we need help.
We
Like,
need
where's
help.
NAACP? I mean, these are questions like, where are these big organizations?
And they
And-
solicit for membership.
Right.
Right.
And they're not in this fight. And we out here fighting on our own, so
Well, we're
It's disturbing.
where they at in the fight. That's the thing. And you know what? That's on us too, because if we saying what we want, right, as people, or we want these people present, we have to go to them.
Right.
Right. So even with the NAACP, they have meetings, show up to one of their meetings.
I think I'm gonna need to do that.
And bring up the issue.
Right.
To help, maybe they could get on the back and join us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, because, you know, one thing, if people don't know you suffering, they know, but they don't know. But
Right.
when you see the faces of the people,
Right.
you gotta act.
Right.
So,
But
Well,
like you
I'm
said,
definitely
like,
take that surprise. But go ahead. Go ahead.
at least using your platform, because Reverend Jesse Jackson, he lives over here in my neighborhood too. So they all know about the displacement. Like I said, we all know how palms get greased behind doors. So we're not expecting them, but that is something that it has been a thought of sitting down with the minister. Like, what do you think about this? Like, where is your stance? Because your people are being displaced.
Right.
As well as what's going on in these buildings is just heinous, and it's nationwide, and that's what
Right.
people don't understand. It's not one city, Chicago,
Yep.
New York. It's all over the nation where this
Yep.
is happening.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
so
Right.
unfortunate.
Right.
Right.
It really is. And sorority suit and a fraternity suit. I'm gonna throw them out there as well. I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
He's on a roll, y'all.
Stan Moss is on the roll. Stan is on the roll. Yeah, but you know, but
He's gonna be able to leave the
we-
building. Will you stop over?
no, because we need help. We need resources.
We need help.
We need help.
He got the Windy City backing him, so
So I feel powerful now. I feel powerful now. I got New York and we reached Chicago behind me.
and it's windy today. How about that?
Hey, yeah.
But we about to shut down. Any final words from you? You could throw out your social media handles, as I told you. Let people know.
Yeah, so I'm at
mhm.
ShowtimeShanna on everything, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And just tenants who are in this struggle, just know you're not alone. You can reach out, East Lake Tenants Union. We also are on everything, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We try to make all this stuff go viral. We try to be on the national news, because this is a national emergency.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
For what's going on in housing. But you're not alone, and keep fighting. It's unfortunate, but 9 times out of 10, you look like me, or Hispanic or whatever. We have to fight every single day. And it's sad, but this is what we have to do. And we have to fight for housing. Rent is going up, inflation, everything is going up. We have got to fight to keep our housing and our stability. So join in. Thank you guys. One night, and
All
keep
right.
up the good work. You guys
Thank
are
you.
doing a lot. And I know some days it's like, why am I doing this? Why did God or the higher power put me in this position? But it's like, you're here for a reason,
Right,
and you're
absolutely.
definitely hope to other people. So definitely keep it going.
I have a love, me personally, I have a love to serve. So I just get up and I do it. I don't even,
A thankless
not-
job.
do it. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, dear. Stan?
Well, I want to thank you for your work. I think all the work that we all doing is God's work in a sense.
Right.
They ain't gonna get rich doing this. And you're gonna have a lot of frustration. And some days you can get something done for a resident, some days you can't.
Mhm.
Right.
And all the frustration and pain that we had. So I just commend you, and I commend any organizer in this fight, because it's tough. And if you're not really tough skinned, this fight will gobble you up. So
Right.
I just really appreciate your work, and everyone who does this work, from Seeker, Save Section 9, Residents Reserve Public Housing, whoever, all the organizations, Homes Eyes Coalition, and this is not easy work.
One night, yeah.
One
we
night, right.
organized.
So
Podcast.
right. Big shout out to everyone that does this work.
One night.
Well,
Uh-oh.
like I
Shoot.
always say, right? Everybody should just like, share, subscribe to our YouTube page, One Night Your TV. That's ONE Night Your TV. You can email us at onenightyourtv@gmail.com. And John, on YouTube, share, subscribe to all our pages, all of them. And oh yes, and people, can y'all please put whatever chat y'all had in the link. Whatever links y'all had in the chat, so everybody else can click and look on them. That's what John Furman want. He want everybody to put their links in the chat.
Thank
But
you for joining us, John. Yeah.
yes, but once again, please subscribe.
Okay.
And
Before I jump and close, is the vote still on? Are you people still vote for you?
oh no, people ain't voting for me no
Did
more.
you
It's
win?
done. No, I ain't get enough votes. I ain't get enough votes.
That's what I mean.
I was supposed to be in 10th place by the 29th, and I was the 13th.
You was in 13th place? I was close.
And I needed to be in 10th place before the 29th, and then I would have seen what was
Then
in
you,
the
then
next
you
place.
would be, and you'd have been in the next round or something. Next round.
Yeah,
to
the
vote.
next round will go.
Oh,
All right. I ain't getting no vote for me.
oh, well, I had to ask because, we talked about it. See,
I know.
Well, one day you're gonna have
Saundrea voted for me.
Oh,
I seen it.
oh, I guess
was able to see.
called me out. Might call me out.
People like,
Right.
you should have been in our group chat reminding us. You should have been all, see, next time you do it, I'll manage that for you. I'll help you. I'll get you.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
will get you.
Saundrea.
You gotta be like a pit bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for joining. We will be in touch. Continue the great work. We support you. We stand with you, and I know you stand with us. One night you're one people. We
One
vow
night
to
you're
be
one
one
people.
night you're one people.
Woo! Okay. Okay. Bye.